Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another live this morning, the start of another week. Hope you're having a great start to your day, and as per usual, we'll wait a few moments here for folks to come on, and we appreciate you doing that. Good morning, Donna. You're up number one, Lori Lee and Andrea. Good morning, and Rosalinda, 2 from Niagara Falls. Rosa, good morning. Marianne and Sandra, Aurelia. John, Elgin, Illinois. Maureen, good morning. And Kevin, Oshawa. Nick, our staff. Sherry. Jocelyn, Sturgeon, good morning. Micheline, Sturgeon, bonjour. Mary, Darlene, Julie, Sturgeon, wow, we're really going. Wendy, Markham, good morning. Let me see if I can say this right. Khadijatu, how are you? Deb, Timmons, Yolande, bonjour. Jeanette, good morning to you. And Joanna. And Michelle. Linda, how are you? Nancy. Maria. Jerry. Nouveau Brunswick. Alicia. Michelle. Tennessee. Faye, good morning. Debbie. Sturgeon, my word. Rosa Marie, how are you, Rosa Marie? Linda, another Linda from Chatham. Annalisa, North Bay, good morning. Julie, Jane, Betty, New Brunswick, Bathurst, Michelle, John, good morning. Karen, how are you? And Maureen is from Pennicon, BC. Never heard of that. I heard of BC. Alicia, Rita, Kathy. Here we go. JC, Jean-Claude, comment ça va? And Barbara, Lois, Elliott Lake. Yes, it's beautiful in Elliott Lake. It is. Julie, Nick, another Nicole, Samuel. How are you, Anne? Good morning. Jean. Donna. Okay, couple more. Here we go. Jeanette, I was waiting. From our staff, good morning. Vasi. How are you, Vasi? Darlene. And Nancy. Kapuskasing. Wow, from way up north to way down south in Florida and California, and Beverly, Joanne, Natalie. You guys are great. We thank you for coming on. Lorraine. I hate to miss people. Now, I'm going to say hello to Brahim, but I don't see his name. Now, I don't know if he's on, but he said the other day that I'm missing him all the time. Kim, how are you from Florida? Naperville, Illinois. I've been there. How are you? Hold on, I missed you. Jean, Evelyn, I got to scroll. I hate to scroll because sometimes I'm going to blow this. Who is that from Babika? Okay. Anyway, I better stop because I'm going to knock us off. Good morning, and we appreciate it. You know what I'm going to talk to you about this morning? Just because there was an article I read on vitamin C. Now, you're thinking coffee because that's the right way to think about vitamin C. But I got to give you a little history, and just because it's interesting in this sense. Now, Linus Pauling put vitamin C on the map, and I mean that. Okay, before that, I can tell you, before that, even multivitamins weren't popular in North America. I was in school when Linus Pauling won a Nobel Prize in medicine for his work on vitamin C. He actually lectured to us. Was he a smart guy? More than smart. But this is my personal opinion. And with all due respect to Linus Pauling, who's passed away many years ago. And now you have the Linus Pauling Institute for research. And you know what? Good for them. They're doing some fantastic research. But I've always said this, and I will say it and say it and say it. Vitamin C, okay? Linus Pauling, who put vitamin C on the map, okay? With others, real early gurus like Adele Davis, okay? They put vitamin C on the map, but they missed out by one letter in the alphabet, okay? That is a saying that I developed years ago. They only missed by one letter in the alphabet. And I want to go over that this morning. Why, first of all, did I say that? And all due respect to vitamin C, because if you looked at the sales of vitamin C, okay? I mean, they are very high. Now, I think vitamin D has overtaken them in terms of sales of what people take as a supplement. But people take vitamin C, and you know, you get a cold, you take vitamin C and all this and that. But I've always, and one thing you guys will agree with me, or at least if you know me at all, is that I have been very, very consistent. I've said this since the cows came home, okay? And I mean it. I've always said that vitamin C, the other vitamin C, ascorbic acid, was highly overrated. And if you look at studies, okay, and let me just I'm going to make several points here today to give you my thesis on vitamin C, ascorbic acid. Okay? First of all, and it's one of the reasons that, and you know, a lot of people think I'm joking, because I do. I make fun of myself and make fun, you know, that's part of my personality. But I want to say this, that I've always said this about vitamin C. It was highly overrated. And people take it, and that's fine. And I tell them, you know what I mean? I'm not saying that it's got no benefits. I'm not, of course I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that it's overrated, and that if you are taking it at the first sign of a cold, people take vitamin C. And to me, you're wasting your time and money. That is me. I've said that for years, because the vitamin that is 100-fold more powerful than vitamin C, ascorbic acid, is vitamin D. Now you got to go back now and remember of the era I come out of, okay? Because believe you me, when Linus Pauling came out with vitamin C, and he made some bold claims, it skyrocketed even in those early days of the 1970s. It skyrocketed the sales of vitamin C, ascorbic acid, and the rest is history, because it really has sold millions and millions and millions of people on the benefits of vitamin C. I beg to disagree with those benefits, by the way. Okay? Because if you study nutrition, okay? If you study nutrition, you know, I went through this the other day when I talked about vitamin S steak. Okay? What are you looking at? When you want to unpack food, what are you looking at? Well, you look at macros, right? Is it a protein? Is it a fat? Is it a carbohydrate? Okay? So you get that. And then inside of that food, you talk about amino acids, okay? Building blocks that you must eat. You talk about vitamins, and then you talk about minerals, okay? And those are the main categories when you unpack food, okay? What is it? Macros, what vitamins are in it, what minerals are in it, what amino acids are in it. And I was making the case the other day, and you'll be able to listen to those on podcasts, about the reasons I like vitamin S as the top food in the world. Steak. Okay? Top food in the world. Okay, now, let's talk about vitamin C and what Linus Pauling said was that vitamin C is number one for your immune system. Okay? Number one for immune system. Because before that, okay, when, people talk to immunity, they really didn't talk about vitamin C so much. It wasn't until really Linus Pauling. And then the world took it, and I mean it, and made vitamin C the number one. Probably calcium was still number one, but vitamin C was right up there. Boom, the sales took off, and they couldn't make vitamin C fast enough. But I always had trouble with it because, again, I was comparing it to the immune factor of vitamin D. Now you have to understand, okay? Understand some history here. If you talk to any doctor, any nutritionist, any dietitian in the 1970s, okay? You know what you heard about vitamin D? It's for your bones. It's for your bones. That's it, and that's all. And because it was a fat-soluble vitamin, okay? Fat-soluble vitamin. Be careful with vitamin D, they would tell you. Don't take too much vitamin D because you're going to get sick. You're going to die. Your kidneys are going to fail. You're going to make kidney stones. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. It's going to kill you. So be very careful. And believe you me, when I was in school, and then listen to this, and it was always based on faulty math. You could hardly get anyone to tell you to take more than 100 IUs, 200, for years. And I mean 30, 40 years. Vitamin D would be 200 international units. You have no idea how long it took for vitamin D to go to 400 international units, which is enough for a mouse. The world generally had no trouble. I'm talking about the professional world. Had no trouble really with vitamin C. There was some pushback on Linus Pauling because he made some pretty extraordinary claims. But in a dietitian's mind, or, nutritionist's mind, or even a medical doctor's mind, at least vitamin C is water soluble, meaning that if you take too much vitamin C, you're just going to pee it out. That's what water soluble means. Okay? So they weren't too scared of vitamin C, so they really, and remember, Linus Pauling won a Nobel Prize. Okay? He won a Nobel Prize in medicine. And guys, in my opinion, well deserved. Well deserved. They finally recognized someone in terms of Nobel Prizes in medicine that, he was talking about something natural like vitamin C. But again, okay, just from where you understand I'm coming from, I liked Linus Pauling, but I disagreed with him. Okay? I disagreed with him. And if you go back and read any of my books, vitamin C. Now listen, okay? Now listen. Let me just make a few points. Vitamin C, ascorbic acid, is a large molecular vitamin, first of all. Not as big as B12 on the scale, but it's still, it's a hard to absorb vitamin. And here's another thing that people don't realize. If you draw a picture, like I'm talking about biochemistry here, okay? And I don't want to bring you into the weeds. You don't need to go in there. Just let me make a couple of general statements. Vitamin C, ascorbic acid, okay? Do you know that it has almost the exact same profile, biochemistry-wise, as sugar? Sugar, vitamin C. They look alike to your body. They do. Now, remember, and this is something I'm giving you a little context to this and why vitamin C became so popular. Okay? Why it became so popular. Well, orange juice companies, apple juice companies, and other juice companies like Tropicana and Allen's and all, like, go to the grocery store and look at, all the orange juice in there, okay? Which is the number one selling, I call it a soft drink. It's the number one selling soft drink, orange juice. And you must admit, I am very, very consistent about this. If you give your children orange juice, you might as well open up a can of Pepsi and give them that. Because it's got the same amount of sugar in it. And that includes apple juice. Oh yeah, but doc, there's no sugar added. You don't have to add any sugar. It's got so much sugar. You never ever drink juice. Ever. Don't drink it. Because it goes in 100 miles an hour. It speeds its way to your liver. It ain't going to do you any good. It's only going to do you harm. It's going to do your children harm. And, I always know my generation, and you go to a restaurant in the morning and whatever. I love bacon and eggs. You know me, sausage and eggs. I love that stuff. But I watch people around me, and seniors especially, they love their orange juice. And I feel like going over, have you guys not watched any of my podcasts? No, but it drives me crazy. And if you ask them, why are you taking that? Why are you drinking orange juice? and the odd time apple juice. Why are you drinking that? Oh, Dr. Martin, I got to get my vitamin C. Right? Brought to you by Tropicana. Guys, that stuff's garbage. First of all the sugar in there looks like vitamin C. Your body will lap that up. Your body will lap that stuff up. But it ain't good for you. There's nothing in orange juice that's good for you. Nothing. You want to eat an orange? You have my permission. Okay, you can. Because God wants you to eat fruit, not drink it. Don't drink fruit. Now listen, okay? And I'm going to do it maybe this week. I want to do a session on what I call post-reset. And so many people ask, okay, Doc, I did the 30 days. What do I do next? Okay? I answered it in the book, the Metabolic Reset. But I want to give you, I want to get very specific, and I've got, it's something that I've been, because I'm writing a new book right now, I'm talking about post-reset. Everybody and their dog should do a reset. Everybody. I'm doubling down on that. But once you do the 30 days where you're not having any sugar, any carbs, okay? What do I do after that? Well, I've got a new, just a new teaching, because I want you guys to understand what to do afterwards, okay? And then let's spend a session at that, and I think you will find it interesting, okay? As I talk about what do you do after a reset? Doc, how do you eat every day? And I'm going to give you some rules that give you guidelines that you will appreciate, I think. Okay? And now, everybody and their dog started taking vitamin C. It skyrocketed. Now, they took it for, the number one reason they took it wasn't for scurvy. Okay? Scurvy. Okay? They took it for their immune system. And that's what bothered me. I said, vitamin C for your immune, I got a cold, Doc. I'm going to take a vitamin C, and I take 1,000, 2,000, milligrams of it. And what do you think about that? And I look at him with a blank stare. Well, Doc, you're not answering me. What do you think about that? And I look at him. Because I didn't want to be too negative. I don't want to be known as Debbie Downer all the time. Okay? So I give him a little bit of a smirk. I don't think too much of it. Doesn't work. And especially if you compare it to vitamin D. There's no comparison, guys. Vitamin D, I've said this to you. Vitamin D would have won a Nobel Prize in medicine if you could patent it. Okay? Vitamin D would have won a Nobel Prize even in the last couple of years. Viderma, if you could patent it and if it was owned by someone. But you can't own the sun, okay? God owns the sun. And God wants you to get into the sun and get your vitamin D. There is nothing better for you than vitamin D. And if you are an Inuit living in the north, well, you're eating vitamin S, and it gives you the amount. You have to eat it every day in order to get vitamin D, because you don't see the sun. Right? So, and okay, let me say this. So people were taking it for their immune system. And you never heard me say that. I didn't talk about it. Now, there were physicians that you would get an IV of vitamin C. Okay? Meaning goes directly into your bloodstream. And there were physicians giving it for cancer. What did I think about that? I like that. I had no problem with that. If you were taking it intravenously in very high doses. Because if you take vitamin C in the doses they give you in an IV, well, your stomach's going to be upside down. You're going to have diarrhea. You can't take that much vitamin C except intravenously. So do I like that? Yeah, I like that. I got no problem with that. Yeah, but good luck. Most people are not going to take an IV of vitamin C. Okay? Who's going to give you that? But again, I tell you, vitamin D wins on the immune system. It's not even close, guys. It's not even close. Okay? It's not close. Now, here's the other reason, the primary reason. Before Linus Pauling, that people would take vitamin D, they didn't think about it, but it was part of your eating. And that was, you needed vitamin C so that you wouldn't get what? What's the disease called? Scurvy. Okay? Scurvy. Vitamin C. Now listen, this is going to upset a few gurus, if any gurus are listening. Okay? This is going to upset them. They're not going to like what I got to say. But I know it's true. And that is, you get all the vitamin C you need. You don't need fruit for vitamin C. You think you do, but you don't. Okay? And I know that's a controversial statement, but I'm going to tell you something right now. Vitamin S, if let's just say you didn't have any choice, you were like the Inuit that they might have fruit in season. When you think about fruit, okay, go back 100 years or whatever. You had fruit in season. True or false? Like if you lived in Sudbury, like, unless you preserved it, right? In a jam or whatever, people would eat it in season. And am I saying they're no good? Of course I'm not. Like blueberries. Blueberries, they're good. Raspberries, they're good. They're good tasting. Strawberries, I love them. Okay? But you don't take that for, if I don't get my strawberries, I'm going to get scurvy. No, that's not true. It's not. If I don't drink orange juice, I'm going to get scurvy. That's not true. If you eat vitamin S, you're going to get all the vitamin C that you need because you don't need much. And I always remind you, and you know the history of this. As a matter of fact, I wrote a book about it, okay? And I'm going to show it to you. So if you're listening to this on a podcast, and you're going to see the writing upside down. You see this book here? The Truth About Pycnogenol, now called Navitol, the bark with the bite. And in there, I tell the story of scurvy. Okay? I tell the story of scurvy. Because in Canadian history, it's very famous. Okay? If you took any Canadian history, my American friends, you might not know this because you are unable. Well, you don't learn about Jacques Cartier, right? But I did as a kid. And, we learned even back then that he lost almost, as he traveled from France into Quebec, wasn't known as Quebec, of course, at the time. And on one of his expeditions, he lost a lot of men there. They died of scurvy. Okay? But when the First Nations, okay, befriended Jacques Cartier, they gave Jacques Cartier a tea made of pine bark. True story. They didn't give him fruit. They gave him a tea with pine bark in it. And Jacques Cartier actually wrote it in his annals. You can read his annals. He wrote about it. And they were preserved at the University of Quebec. And I told you the story probably many a times. I hope you're not tired of it. But I actually met the guy who did research on pine bark extract. His name was Dr. Jacques Masquelier. He was from France. He had been studying at the University of Quebec. And he was reading these annals. He was a biochemist. He was reading the annals of Jacques Cartier and he goes, what's in pine bark? Must be vitamin C. But it wasn't. That's what he thought. Well, because Jacques Cartier wrote, he said, all my men that survived got better. And not only better, we all felt better taking pine bark. And you know my story of pine bark. But Dr. Masquelier, when he went back to France, didn't see vitamin C in pine bark. But what he did find was what a nutrient and polyphenols and a conglomerate of all these wonderful things in pine bark. And he wrote about it. And he actually started harvesting in the south of France, where Napoleon had planted hundreds of thousands of trees in the south of France. I went there to look at them. I actually looked at the trees. And they harvested, and within 24 hours, they plant another one, and they make pine bark extract. Very, very complicated procedure. But anyway, Jacques Masquelier was the first guy to do it. And you know what? He didn't discover vitamin C. He discovered what some people in Europe call vitamin P. Pine bark. And I fell in love with that supplement. And I'm going to tell you something. Can I say it just for people who are going to push back to me? And you want a little fight this morning? I love you guys, okay? You don't need to take a supplement of vitamin C, ascorbic acid. You do not need that. Drink coffee. It's got more of what your body needs. You'll never get scurvy. 100% true. If you eat vitamin S steak, and because steak literally cures. Okay? Steak literally cures scurvy. And if you drink coffee, from quercetin to polyphenols to you name it in there, over 1,000 phytonutrients, you're going to get everything you need in a coffee. Now, don't ruin your coffee by putting sugar in it. Okay? Don't ruin it. But that's how good coffee is for you. And far behind it is tea. Tea's all right for you teetotalers, okay? But it's not coffee. Doesn't have the polyphenols. It doesn't have the biochemical makeup that coffee has. Now, you think I'm biased. I admit it, I'm biased. I love coffee. But the research bears out. Now, you can imagine. Now, think about this for a minute, okay? And I know I'm pontificating way too much. But let me say this. Can you imagine the pushback that I got? You remember, I had a radio show for years. And people used to get angry at me. I mean, they were angry because they've always taken vitamin C, right? Since the 70s. And I used to tell them, well, like, I don't need vitamin C because I drink coffee. Like Jacques Cartier didn't drink orange juice. He drank pine bark. And now they make an extract. Okay? That's very specific. No, but guys, listen. Did I tell you I didn't like Linus Pauling? I didn't say that. I actually liked him a lot. A very smart guy. He just was off a little bit on the alphabet. And the longer we go down the road, and science is catching up to what I've said. The vitamin D. The real vitamin C. I've eliminated the ascorbic acid because you don't need it. And I've replaced it with the true vitamin C, which is coffee. Hello? I've been saying that for a long time. Okay. Now, I got excited this morning because I'm easily excitable, okay, when it comes to nutrition. And I know I'm controversial, and that's all right, okay? And I don't care. I know, seriously. If you guys want to, I want you to think. God gave you gray matter in between your ears. He wants you to think, okay? Doesn't want you to kiss your brains goodbye. I don't want that at all. I want you to think. And I want you to, use it. Use it or lose it, your brain, okay? Okay. Now, this week, just as we close here, this week, of course, Good Friday, we're not going to have a program, okay? So no program on Friday, okay? We're going to have morning sessions all week. So once again, like we did last week, we will have question and answer Thursday. And I already see lots of questions. If you can, add them to our Thursday discussion, okay? Sometimes I answer them right away, but they're very good questions and we appreciate it. Okay, now, do you know that you can get now the metabolic reset on an electronic book? It's available. Tony Jr. told me that. I don't know anything. Okay. I wonder if I should do another book on the bark with the bite. I look at this. I'm seeing a picture of myself in the back and I go, who's that guy? Okay. Man, I don't even recognize him. And it's me. That's how many years ago I wrote that book. Wow. Okay. So guys, we love you dearly and we mean it, and we'll talk to you soon.